Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to seminar on digitalization in public financial management to support financial sustainability. We would like to invite all of you to be seated at the seat provided, since the opening ceremony is about to begin.
Kami ucapkan selamat datang kepada Bapak dan Ibu hadirin sekalian pada rangkaian acara seminar on Digitalization in Public Financial Management to Support Financial Sustainability. Kami persilakan Bapak dan Ibu untuk masuk ke dalam ruangan seminar dan menempati tempat duduk yang telah disediakan karena sesaat lagi acara akan segera kita mulai. Please welcome Director General of Treasury, Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good afternoon, the Honorable Director General of Treasury, Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti. Selamat siang, Bapak. And also Senior Officer, Ministry of Finance of Republic of Indonesia.
The Honorable Head of Treasury and Representative of Asian Member States, the members of Asian Secretariat and the Multilateral Organization representative, our prominent speakers, moderator, and also all participants who joined directly here in Hotel Mulia Jakarta and also who joined virtually via Microsoft Teams. Once again, welcome to Seminar on Digitalization in Public Financial Management to support financial sustainability. My name is Dudi Septariza, and here's my partner.
My name is Rima Budiarti.
It is an honor for us to be your master of ceremony for today's agenda.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, considering the Asian Chairmanship 2023's priority economy deliverable of digital economy, such as advancing payment connectivity, strengthening resilience in financial sector in digital, and also financial inclusion, in this seminar, we will discuss 5 subtopics. The first 5 subtopics is about the adoptions of technological development within public financial management architecture by an expert from the International Monetary Fund, Mr. Sailendra Narayan Patanayak. And the second subtopic is about Singapore's experience in digitalizing government payment by an official from Ministry of Finance of Singapore, Ms. Chua Bian.
And for third subtopic, we will discuss about Indonesia's experience in digitalizing government revenue collection by Director of State Cash Management, Directorate General of Treasury Indonesia, Ministry of Finance, Bapak Nur Faisal Ahmad, followed by financial digitalization and its implication to public financial management by an expert from the World Bank, Mr. Kuram Farouk. And the last, we will discuss about Australia's experience in delivering a sustainable digitalization of public financial management by an expert from the Australian Treasury, Mr. Romesh Gunet Ratne.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin our seminar today. May now we invite the Honorable Director General of Treasury, Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti, to deliver keynote speech. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti.
Cek. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a very good afternoon for all our colleagues here. Esteemed delegates from the Ministry of Finance across South Asia and also honorable guests and distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's honor and pleasure to join you at this important event that bring together the best mind of our ASEAN community. As we gather today to explore the establishment of an ASEAN Treasury Forum, I am reminded of the rich tapestry of cultures, histories, and ambition that define our ASEAN community. A community where unity and diversity are not just principle, they are the very foundation of our shared prosperity. By offering a specialized platform for collaboration on digitalization in public financial management, the forum stands to accelerate the exchange of innovative ideas, skills, and best practices within ASEAN. Our theme today, digitalization in public finance management to support financial sustainability. It's not merely a guiding praise, it is a call to action, an acknowledgement of our responsibilities, and an indication of the immense potential that await us. In our quest, the financial sustainability, digitalizing public finance management become pivotal to our nation prosperity. It is not merely about digitizing revenue channel or optimizing expenditures. It is about leveraging technology to ensure that every cent translates into meaningful impact, ensuring our economies are not only growing but able to weather potential financial storm and adaptable to the changing environment. The digital era offers unparalleled avenue to reimagine this process, making it more transparent, efficient, and most importantly, in sync with our financial sustainability objective. Dynamic financial management requires the integration of age-old economic tenet with evidence-based, data-driven insight and policies. Data technologies provide unprecedented opportunities to transform public finance management, making it more transparent, accountable, and responsive to the citizen need. But we must approach digitalization as a technical shift and a paradigm change in managing our economic resources. We have witnessed a transformative shift in how our government and public sector operate, especially within the realm of finance and treasury impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The dawn of this era has brought forth an accelerated embrace of e-government services, streamlining processes like tax filing, procurement, and treasury management, facilitating more efficient interaction between citizens, businesses, and government bodies. As we navigate this crisis, digital payments have served not only as a measure to mitigate virus spread, but also as a lifeline for businesses weathering the storm. Furthermore, our government are harnessing the power of data analytics, using it as a beacon to guide financial decision-making, track expenditures, detect fraudulent activities, and optimize budget allocation. In tandem, we have embarked on a journey toward greater automation, refining financial processes, and driving efficiency while saving costs. Yet, with this digital evolution come an imperative to fortify our cyber defense. As we lean into the digital age, our commitment to bolstering cybersecurity measures has never been more paramount. The digital metamorphosis catalyzed by the pandemic is not a mere transient phase, but a future-forward approach. Governments that have embraced and championed this digital transformation will undoubtedly lead offering more adept and streamlined financial services in the time to come. In the rapidly changing financial landscape, Southeast Asia emerged as a hotspot for digital metamorphosis and innovation. For instance, digital payments have seen a significant uptick in the region, highlighted by, among others, Indonesia CRIS Quick Response Code Indonesian Standard Initiative. E-government services are simplify how citizens interact with their government online. The fintech sector is bustling with groundbreaking solutions like mobile banking and peer-to-peer lending. Backed by supportive policies, like Thailand's fintech sandbox. Additionally, blockchain potential is being harnessed for application ranging from cross-border payment to land registries with endeavor like Singapore collaborative blockchain platform for international payment underscoring its significance. Thus, Southeast Asia financial sector is at the forefront of a digital revolution emphasizing efficiency and inclusivity. Our journey into the digital realm in Indonesia has been challenging and rewarding. Digitalizing our state revenue sector through the modul penerimaan negara or state revenue module is more than just a procedural shift. It is a paradigm change. Before the MPN introduction, state revenue management was mere and cumbersome manual method. This antiquated system often resulted in delay, potential error, and lack of transparency, hindering government and policies and public ability to track and comprehend revenue flow efficiently. With the MPN advent, this landscape underwent a profound transformation. The platform streamlines the collection, management, and reporting of taxes, non-tax revenues, and other financial receipts. Every transaction is digitally documented, making it easily accessible and verifiable, thus championing transparency. The MPN also stands as a testament to the renewed trust between government and citizen, signaling a promise that their contributions are handled with utmost integrity and efficiency. In 2004, the Republic of Indonesia initiated a significant shift in its approach to integrated financial management information system by developing the State Treasury and Budgeting System, commonly referred to in Bahasa Indonesia as SPAN or Sistem Perbendaraan dan Anggaran Negara. This system creates a seamless integration of a fundamental operation like budgeting, treasury management, and financial reporting into one consolidated platform. The advent of SPAN marked a pronounced commitment by the nation to elevate the transparency and accountability of its public resources management. The State Revenue Module, MPN, situated with SPAN, is a structured integrated information system, was a significant advancement from its predecessor and is dedicated to refining our state revenue management. This system represents a collaboration that has proven pivotal for strengthening our cash management. The synergy between SPAN and MPN ensure precision in cash forecasting and streamlines cash positioning by facilitating real-time data exchange and operation. Not only does this integration enhance liquidity management and optimize the deployment of short-term cash resources, but it also brings ease of access, enabling all government agencies to harness its potential. We automated reconciliation process between the two systems to aid in identifying and resolving discrepancies, promoting the efficiencies and effectiveness of our cash management. This collaboration of the system does not just heighten fiscal efficiency, it ushers in a new era of transparency and accountability, emphasizing the thorough accuracy and quality of our cash flow and the streamlined reporting processes. We remain committed to evolving and refining SPAN and MPN, confident in their potential to continually elevate the pillar of efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability in our state financial management. The financial sector in Indonesia has been substantial digital transformation, resulting in the emergence of digital banking and fintech services. Government restriction, technology advancement, and international collaboration have fostered this expansion, creating financial accessibility and efficiency. Despite the advantages, digitalization has introduced new obstacles such as regulatory compliance and technological disparities. The emphasis on digital security and expanding services to this advantage area demonstrate a commitment to responsible expansion, but it necessitates rigorous risk management. Financial sector digitalization has had a significant impact on Indonesia's economic growth, coinciding with aim of sustainability and social responsibility. Future prospects are dependent on continuing investment in technology and innovation, as well as a balanced approach to managing opportunities and challenges. Our vision for a robust economy has never been more evident in this digital age. More than a contemporary term, digitalization is a cornerstone of our economic forward momentum. It does more than streamline tasks, it crystallizes our decision making and set the stage for fresh innovation. Our embrace of integrated financial management system in Indonesia marked a decisive move from routine clerical function to profound analytical undertaking. This shift enhanced our ministry's capabilities for informed, timely decision making. Moreover, as we stand at the helm of financial governance, digitalization carved pathway for pioneering advancement, exemplified by our Treasury Office work on the Treasury Big Data. Efficiency is no longer just an operational aim, but a digital reality, allowing businesses to optimize operation and witness soaring profit. And in this fast digital marketplace, businesses are unlocking previously inaccessible market, translating to heightened sales and revenue stream. Yet, this digital renaissance has its challenge. The stark digital divide threatens inclusive growth, a reality where opportunities remain bound by access to technology. Cybersecurity stands as a testament to the dual-edged sword of technology, demanding our vigilance, as does the ever-pertinent issues of data privacy. Regulatory landscapes too must dynamically evolve, mirroring the breakneck pace of technological change. While the tapestry of digitalization paints a promising picture for economic growth, it beckons nations to actively address its inherent challenges, ensuring the shared prosperity of their citizens. According to the Economic Research Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, Indonesia digital economy saw a remarkable growth of 414% from 2017 to 2021. Furthermore, it has been forecast to grow by about 62% from 2021 to 2025. In just under 10 years, Indonesia digital economy will grow eightfold. Hence, the digital economy has played a key role in supporting Indonesia economic growth and will continue to do so. Some groups have benefit from this growth, especially the Ministry of Finance of Indonesia. The digital transformation helped MOF improve transformation of its business process and organization more flattened and agile to implement fiscal policy, included treasury operation supporting robust economic development. Distinguished delegates, ASEAN strength stem from unity of purposes, and as we each navigate the digital future, collective action become more critical than ever. Such collective action, like one of the proposed ASEAN Treasury Forum, is a crucial platform for knowledge sharing and benchmarking. Such a platform facilitates alignment in digital public finance strategies among ASEAN member states, factoring in diverse treasury practices. By bridging the finance sector and the broader ASEAN summit, such a forum fosters deeper cooperation, enhancing the finance sector strength and ensuring ASEAN competitiveness in the future. Our shared vision is clear, a Southeast Asia that thrives not just economically but also socially and environmentally, where prosperity is inclusive, opportunities are abundant, and every individual, irrespective of their background, can dream, achieve, and prosper. Leveraging digitalization in public financial management is a significant step toward this vision. As we embark on this journey, let us remind ourselves that our true north is not merely technology or system, but the well-being of our people as well as society. Ladies and gentlemen, the road ahead is long and the challenges are many, but with partnership, shared commitment, and the collective will of our nation, there is no ambition too high for ASEAN. Let us move forward, hand in hand, building efficient and collaborative public treasury ecosystem that symbolize our shared value and aspiration. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih dan kami mohon untuk tetap berada di atas panggung Pak Astera Primanto Bakti untuk sesi foto bersama. And also would like to invite moderator and speakers to join Pak Prima on the stage for a photo session together. Once again, we would like to invite the moderator, speakers to join Pak Prima on the stage for a photo session. Okay, here is the speakers and also moderators with Director General of Treasury. Okay, please give the best pose, Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, for our photo session. On my count, everybody, 1, 2, 3. Once again, 1, 2, 3. Please give big round of applause for our speakers, moderator, and Director General Treasury, Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti. And please kindly back to your seat again. Thank you. Once again, thank you very much Bapak Astera Primanto Bakti for the keynote speech. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let's move to our main agenda, the discussion panel. Before we start, let us introduce the moderator for today's discussion, Ms. Andini Effendi. Ms. Andini Effendi is CEO and co-founder of Cauldron Indonesia, a communication strategy and production company based in Jakarta.
In addition, Ms. Andini has also won many international awards while working as journalist and anchor in various TV stations since 2005 until 2021, and she also graduated with a master's degree in global Relations from New York University in 2013. Specializing in international affairs, conflict resolution, and also environmental issues, she has ample experience reporting on important events, interviewing significant figures, and featuring various international stories.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Andini Effendi. Please give it a round of applause. Okay.
We also would like to kindly invite our speakers to join Miss Andini on the stage. Mr. Sailendra Narayan Patanayak, please welcome to the stage. And also we would like to invite our second speaker, Miss Chua Bian. Please join Miss Andini on the stage. And also the third speaker is Mr. Nirvaisal Ahmad. Please welcome on the stage.
And also we would like to invite, join virtually via Microsoft Teams, Mr. Kuram Farooq from the World Bank and Mr. Romesh Guneratne from the Australian Treasury. Miss Andini Effendi, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much to our MC, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and let's just begin our seminar for today. We're lagging a bit of time, but hopefully we will have a more fluid and interactive discussion, as I'm pretty sure the audience here would like to jump in, maybe share their comments or questions to the speakers here. So we have our speakers also joining us virtually, Mr. Kuram Farooq from the World Bank. Top of the morning for you, Mr. Farooq. And then also we have Mr. Romesh Gunaratne from the Australian government. Good evening for you. I hope you're already joining us. I would like to give the screen then to start with to Mr. Kuram Farooq from the World Bank, who will deliver his presentation. And I must remind you, to all the speakers, you have maximum 10 minutes to deliver the presentation. You may use it wisely. Less would be better, so we can start the discussion. And I will give the screen to Mr. Farooq. Mr. Farooq, the screen is yours. Maybe we can turn on the audio.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine.
Right. So I will be speaking about the financial payment, the digital payment aspects of the public financial management system, specifically in the context of modernization of banking and mobile money during the past decade. Next slide. So I'll quickly go through some context. What are the PFM payments that we are talking about? What are the instruments and what are the key issues? Some basic principles, payment flows, and then emerging trends. And then I will give 3 country examples and then maybe some actions that we can consider collaboratively going forward. Next slide. So on the left side, you see these are typically the treasury payments that treasuries make around the world. So mostly the vendor payments, which is government to business payments basically. But then there are a large number of retail payments, which are government to person payments. These are salaries, these are pensions, social welfare payments, and maybe travel allowance to some of the employees. And then government to government payments are also very important when you pay interest or petty cash or advances to the service delivery units. Then you have transfer and grants, and then you have subsidies to SOEs. Typically, traditionally, we have been using bank accounts as a main instrument, and then you are using checks or electronic fund transfers. But lately, purchase cards and mobile money and travel cards are also being adopted by many treasuries around the world as payment instruments. And we will talk about it a little bit later when we will get into the discussion. So the key issues when we are deciding about the instruments are the speed, access, safety, cost, and inclusion. By access means that the payment should be accessible to the people who are disadvantaged. People, for example, pensioners in the villages, or maybe women who do not have access to ATMs. Similarly, when I am talking about inclusion, I mean there are certain disadvantaged groups within the society, and we must keep into mind that whatever instrument we are choosing, we are inclusive in our design. Next slide. So what are some of the key principles should be kept in mind, whatever is the mode of the payment. So these are core PFM principles. So budgetary provision, for example, and the compliance with the budget is very important. Treasury control over cash. This is again the fundamental principle. Through the Treasury single account, a risk should be ensured. Policy issues on digital payments or digital ID are important prerequisites. And then institutional coordination arrangements also are high priority, because in the digital payments, it's not only the Treasury, but there are other entities are also involved. You might have pension office, you might have payroll office, you might have social welfare payment ministry. So a lot of institutional coordination is a necessity. And then a holistic view of the payment ecosystem should be taken beyond just the social protection or just one piece of the payment. And then use of emerging technology should also be used, enhanced to improve efficiencies. And audit, again, audit is important to ensure compliance and controls. Next slide. So this is just one form of implementation of some of the basic principles. Let's say if you see on the bottom side, social welfare, social protection payment. There's a ministry responsible for social protection payments. In many countries, the ministry is drawing the money from the Treasury single account, putting it into a commercial bank account, and then making huge payments out of the commercial bank accounts, which is basically violating the two principles that I earlier mentioned: the budget control, as well as control of the consolidation of cash into a Treasury single account. So in this diagram, we are showing the design that we are promoting, that whatever calculations is done by various systems, whether it's pension system or payroll system or social protection system, the payments, the aggregate payments must come through IFMIS, sent to IFMIS for budget control, and then from IFMIS you send it to the consolidated fund, which is the central bank, and then central bank through the payment gateway could send it to the various banks or telecom companies, and through the telecom companies or the banks, the beneficiaries can draw the money through ATM or bank accounts or maybe mobile accounts. Next slide. So mobile money, I just want to emphasize, it's big, it's the trend, and I think treasuries increasingly should keep into mind of leveraging the potential of mobile money. If 8.6 billion people have mobile subscription, which is more than the population of the world. Just 11 million in 1990, and now in 2021, 8.6 billion. And then mobile money accounts are also rapidly increasing around the world, from 1.4 billion mobile money accounts in 2021 to 1.6 billion mobile money accounts in 2022. And mobile government is considered one of the most transformative pro-poor technology. And then there are various modalities of mobile payments. And one modality is QR code. And there is a potential of $495 billion of payments through QR codes by 2025, according to some studies. So just keep in mind, especially for the retail payments, when you're talking about pensions and social welfare payments, mobile has huge potential. And also for the payments through the service delivery units, which I'll discuss in the next slide. Next slide. So I will share three scenarios. In France, for example, so this is a very typical issue. You want to send the money, give the money to the service delivery units, but at the same time, Treasury wants to ensure control for accounting purposes. So how do you balance control of the Treasury, but at the same time give flexibility to the spending units and the service delivery units so that they can meet their requirements without going through the cumbersome, bothersome procedures at the Treasury? So French government has issued P cards. So they have a limit of P card, which are issued to the service delivery units. I think 15,000 euro is the limit. So they spend the money out of the P card, and with the banking arrangement, with the bank, they have made an agreement that the bank will map all the payment transactions that are happening through the P cards. They will map it to the chart of accounts of the government, and then the map transactions aggregated as the chart of accounts are sent to the Treasury periodically, so that they can be incorporated into their IFMIS system and also reported in the accounting. In South Africa, again, one of the biggest social welfare payments in the world, $1.1 billion of social welfare payments per month are made. And they are made through multiple approaches. So access was a key issue in South Africa. They don't wanted people to queue up at the ATMs or the payment counters to get their social welfare payments. So most of the payments are now going through cards, but at the same time, they're also giving voucher-based vouchers. These vouchers are basically QR codes. So you get a QR code on your mobile phone, and then you can get the cash at any of the hundreds and thousands of cash points. It could be a shopping center, it could be any outlet where you can just show the code and then get the money. Huge operation, almost more than 50% of the South African people are getting the social welfare payment through this combination of approaches. So this is another way of dealing with this. And India also offers a very interesting example in which Aadhaar card, digital ID, almost 100 million authorizations are being verified against a digital ID on a daily basis, and all the social welfare payments and pension payments. And there are many other schemes which are paid by using the Aadhaar identification. Next slide. So this is just a quick map of around the world. I just want to draw your attention to the blue circle. So blue is the mobile money-based payments for the social welfare payments. We did a quick survey of 100 countries, and as you can see in the sub-Saharan Africa, the part of the circle which is the mobile money accounts for the social welfare payments is huge actually. Whereas in the East Asia, you see the blue circle is very small. So there's a lot of scope for scaling up the mobile-based money payment for the retail payments from the government to the people. Next slide. So these are two. One thing that we are promoting is the payment portal. So in my previous example, you might have multiple systems making the payments. So you might have social protection system, might have a IFMIS system, but also payroll, pension. And then within social protection system, many ministries might be doing some subsidies or many other payments. So every payment should, if they have to go through the Treasury single account, then you need a separate interface for all these payments. But modern technologies offer an opportunity where you can have a centralized payment portal. You connect all your systems to the payment portal, and then payment portal has one interface with the Treasury single account of the central bank through which all the payments can be processed. We can discuss the details, but in the interest of time, I'm not explaining it. But this is a payment portal. The central payment portal is another innovative technology that is being used for digital payments. And then on the right-hand side, this is a trend I think the DG also spoke. You are bringing all the information from multiple sources, either IFMIS or a procurement system and then subnational government systems into a central data lake where you can monitor the payments and also the budget execution and fraud and corruption and trends analysis and cash position. All things can be monitored by using data lake or data warehouse. There are various technologies available to monitor the progress. Next slide, please. Yes, and this is my last slide. So some of the action items that we should consider going forward. Needless to emphasize that Apple policy and regulatory environment is extremely important. Taking a whole of the government view of the whole overall digital PFM architecture and digital ecosystem is also important to consider. Mobile money offers huge opportunities. Emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, big data, and central payment portal, and also cloud computing offer huge opportunities for efficiencies. Payment processing systems for each program and agency versus institutional coordination for reuse of common payment components. So this is again important. If you have one digital ID system and one payment portal, then every payment agency can reuse rather than every payment agency having their own components of the payment system. And bank reconciliation and payment confirmation to beneficiaries through SMS is another important trend that we are seeing. Data standard and governance is important. And I think peer learning within the region, because some countries have advantages and strengths in one area or the other, is extremely important to promote this knowledge exchange. I'll stop here and then over to you, Kemenkeu.
Thank you, Mr. Farouk. Next we have Mr. Patanayak from the IMF, who will share more on the adoption of technological development within the public financial management architecture. So the stage is yours, sir.
Good afternoon, esteemed delegates. And first of all, I would like to thank on behalf of the IMF for inviting me to this very important event. I'm honored and it is a great pleasure to be here. So next slide, please. So I will give a little bit, first start with a little bit of a snapshot, how the global picture looks like in terms of digitalization of public financial management. And then I will go to specifically in some of the technological developments and how they can be integrated in further transforming digitally the whole public financial management ecosystem. And then I will briefly touch how IMF can partner with the ASEAN member countries for furthering these reforms. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So to start with a global snapshot, we have come a long way. As DG Treasurer in his opening remarks said, many countries have actually adopted financial management information systems. In fact, out of 198 countries, according to the World Bank GovTech database, only 5 countries don't have FMIS. So more or less every country has. Next slide, please. So while every country has more or less a financial management information system, does it deliver what it is expected to deliver? That is where the differences and divergence comes in. If you see the coverage of public financial management functions, still there are gaps in many countries in terms of coverage in FMIS. For example, only 70% of the countries are covering treasury single account systems or the public investment management systems, which as part of the FMIS function. Next slide, please. Another I wanted to give a bit of a snapshot here. We did a survey pretty recently in March actually, covering about 30 countries, of which there were 7 ASEAN member countries, to identify what are the critical challenges faced by countries in digitalizing public financial management. Few things came out very clearly. One is interoperability. While countries have several systems, FMIS is one of the large systems, but there are also procurement system, public investment management system, payroll system, but they don't talk to each other in many countries. As a result, what happens, the data is being captured repeatedly in different systems, which is inefficient. They may be captured in different forms and different classifications, which doesn't help. And then the storage of data is also unnecessarily more expensive because you have to store the same data in multiple storage systems. Another critical aspect which was particularly highlighted by the ASEAN member countries relates to cybersecurity. While the digitalization is progressing so well, cybersecurity is not perhaps given enough consideration. Next slide, please. Now, interoperability, which I mentioned, data interoperability, even amongst the core FMIS functions, that only about 72% of them exchange data with other PFM function systems. Similarly, only 55% of the systems, as I said, have TSA functionality within the Treasury Single Account functionality within the FMIS, but its interlinkage with the overall banking system through which, as Khurram mentioned, the digital payments go through from the treasury systems, that sometimes there is no clear interface for seamless exchange of the payment-related data so that it goes without further manual intervention. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this just shows different segments of PFM functions where there has been progress in terms of data interoperability, but where there are gaps. So between treasury systems and maybe some other systems, there is good budget execution, treasury systems, there is good data interoperability, but between other systems, there is still a long gap and still a long way to go. Next slide, please. Now, this slide, I wanted to show you the evolution of digitalization of public financial management. So, it talks about a little bit of maturity of digitalization. Many countries start with what we call digitization. That is just replicating the manual process in a digital environment. So that is a good start, but doesn't give the full benefit. Then they gradually migrate to what we call digitalization, where the process becomes digital by default, So you get rid of manual processes, move to digital environment, but there could be still some steps which are not necessarily needed in a digital environment. The final stage, which is called the digital transformation, where you actually rethink about the processes themselves to enhance the value of digital transformation and to really move towards more data-driven decision making. Next slide, please. The another important thing I wanted to highlight here, as I think it was also mentioned in DG Treasury's initial opening remark, that the focus should not be only on what I would call the compliance reporting, because many of the systems that are being developed, they are basically based on legally mandated reporting, legally mandated digitalization. But now that data science has evolved, artificial intelligence and new technologies have evolved, just think about generative AI like ChatGPT. So a lot of data governments collect, but they don't make the best use of those data. How that data, and this is where data interoperability becomes important, and a lot of this data could be harnessed for insights and data-driven decision making. And in fact, some examples I don't have in the slide, but I can give you, like some countries like New Zealand and others are using what they call forecasting different economic scenarios, what is called nowcasting, using machine learning, for example. Italy is one example where they are using data science to basically analyze the financial risks coming from government guarantees when they are going to be called or materialize. Similarly, Mexico is using data science. In fact, they're using actually to chatbots so that the users, the public, can actually easily go to the government portals to get services what they want and discover services which they are not aware of. So there are a lot of use of data science and data which governments have, and the focus should be how to use that data for better decision making and more enhanced PFM outputs and processes. Next slide, please. Finally, just to give a little bit of next slide, just to give a little bit of next slide, please. Just to give a little bit of a snapshot of what we, based on the research we have done at the IMF, we have actually developed what we call PFM Digital Solutions Guidelines. So it is founded on 3 pillars. As you see in this circle, it's not, we think that digitalization of public financial management is not simply a choice of a technological tool. The functional, what you expect from your processes and functions, and the IT aspects should go together, and also the governance and management of many of these digital projects is an important component. So there are 3 pillars: functional, IT architectural, and governance and management. And each pillar has 6 principles. Next slide, please. And under each principle, we have also come up with about 1 to 4 attributes which go into details. Next slide. And based on this framework, in fact, this framework could be useful to assess your current public financial management systems, or design new systems, or improve existing systems. And this 3-step assess, design, and improve is, we think, is a good sequenced approach to develop digital solutions going forward in the public financial management area. Next slide, please. So this is what I said: assess, design, and improve, and it can go through 10 steps. I'm not going to explain this in detail, but this is more of an iterative process to go through these 3 stages. Next slide, please. Finally, this is a kind of a little bit one example of using the tool which we have developed, how some of the assessments can come in, which can inform the design of a digital strategy for public financial management. Next slide, please. Next slide. So just to give a little bit of, we stand ready to have partnership, with the ASEAN member countries in 2 areas. One is to foster peer learning by facilitating regional events, seminars, etc., but also by providing capacity development in terms of using the tool which I mentioned to, develop digital PFM reform strategy, and also re-engineering business processes around PM to get the best value out of public financial management. So I'll stop there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Patanaya. Next, we want to hear more about Singapore's experience in digitalizing government payment. Ms. Bian, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Okay. Next slide. So I'll be covering a very brief introduction about AGD, followed by the Singapore government's experience in our digital procure-to-pay processes. Next slide. Next. We are a department formed under the Ministry of Finance to ensure strong stewardship of government's resources and to provide strong, robust financial systems and processes for a high-performance government. Next. Our roles have evolved over the years in helping to enhance public financial management and accountability, specifically in the areas of standard setting, providing advisory role in centralizing and optimizing funds and assets management. And in the last 5 years, we have also started centralizing financial systems and harmonizing financial data across the whole of public sector, leveraging modern technologies to digitalize and improve processes. Next. Our roles span across statutory roles, financial functional leadership, and central operations such as payments. Next. And we serve multiple stakeholders, both within and then outside the public sector, including pensioners, vendors. Next. Now I'll be covering some of our experience in our digital procure-to-pay processes. Next. The Singapore government aims to achieve an end-to-end digitalization of our procure-to-pay processes. So our key strategies involve accelerating centralization and digitalization. We adopt a very highly centralized liquidity management model whereby all the cash are held by AGD in central bank accounts. So all the collections are banked into agencies' bank accounts and auto-swap into the central bank accounts daily, and payments are made by AGD on behalf of agencies to the respective parties. So with this model, we are able to achieve optimal cash management with greater visibility on liquidity and better returns on funds. Next. Our procurement is actually fully electronic. GBIS is the Singapore government's one-stop e-procurement portal. All the government agencies use this portal to post their invitation to tender and invitation to quote. Any vendor is able to search for procurement opportunities, download procurement documents, and submit their bids online anytime and anywhere. And in terms of the award, it's also done in this system. And for procurement with purchase orders issued, the purchase orders information are actually interfaced fully with our central financial system with automated system budget check and encumbrance. Next. We require all our government vendors in Singapore to use our centralized portal, e-invoicing portal called the Vendors at Gov portal to submit their electronic invoices to government agencies. So vendors can use this one-stop portal to monitor their e-invoice statuses and as well as maintain their vendor record details. So as of 2022, we have achieved 97% e-invoicing rate. So there are a lot of benefits from e-invoicing as you can see from this slide. Next. While we have achieved a high e-invoicing rate among the government vendors, it is still not a full end-to-end digitalization of the payment process because the vendors have to manually enter their invoice details into the Vendors at Gov website. Hence, in our next bout of invoicing transformation, we will be looking into adopting Invoice Now as our preferred e-invoicing channel for government vendors. Next. So what is Invoice Now? It is a nationwide e-invoicing network for all the registered businesses to further digitalize the economy and achieve the benefits of e-invoices for businesses. And it actually results in better efficiency, cost reduction, and faster payment cycles. And Invoice Now uses international standards called PEBL, which was conceived in European nations in 2008, and PEBL participants operate in a four-corner model to exchange business documents between each other digitally without manual intervention between their systems. So in terms of the roadmap to adopting Invoice Now, the Singapore government has actually announced our intent in March this year to make Invoice Now the default e-invoice submission channel for all government vendors within the next few years. Next. We also require vendors to maintain their vendor records at the Vendors at Gov e-invoicing portal, and this is a centralized database of vendor records which are shared across all our government agencies established in 2018. And further, at the start of this year, we also implemented an auto-approval of vendor records creation and updates with the necessary login controls at the system at the start of this year. So this removed the need for bank account verification or hard copy documentations. Next. So it brings along many benefits to agencies and as well to our vendors. Next. In terms of payment processing, the Singapore government actually is considered highly automated and electronic. We have two types of invoices, namely the purchase order e-invoices and the non-PO e-invoices. So for these two types of invoices, there are automated checks. For the PO e-invoices, there are automated three-way match between the PO details, the e-invoice details, and as well as the goods receipts, and it goes through a straight-through processing. As for the non-PO e-invoices, they are actually routed electronically within our central financial system for the certifying officers to check that payment conditions are met before payments are approved. Next. In terms of transmitting the funds to vendors, we adopt a close to 100% electronic payments, which was actually set up with our banks to make payments to our vendors' bank account. And this raises the efficiency and effectiveness of payments with very minimal use of checks and enables prompt payments to be made to our government vendors. And at the same time, the same vendor will actually receive one single payment, which is consolidated from multiple agencies' payment. So this helps to reduce processing costs and as well as to increase oversight on the payments that is made to the vendor. And lastly, with the adoption of the three-way match process for our purchase order e-invoices, we are able to actually facilitate faster payments by actually reducing the processing time from the average 30 days to about 15 days. So this has helped to improve the cash flow liquidity for our vendors, especially the small and medium enterprises. Next. AGD is continuously enhancing our service delivery for our vendors. So since the start of this year, we have made available a new e-payment method called PayNow for the government vendors. And this method is actually launched in 2017 in Singapore. PayNow enables payments to be made using the individual identification number or the organization business registration number without the need to know or verify the recipient bank account details. So what this means is that it actually means that vendor need not maintain their bank account details with us, and it greatly simplifies the payment process, hence improving productivity and reducing cost. Next. I would also like to share on a block billing arrangement that the Singapore government has implemented for government vendors with high volume transactions to raise productivity for both the government and the companies and drive prompt payments. So in this arrangement, block billing accounts are created for authorized service providers such as the utility companies, and monthly bills are received from the service provider via system integration. And the government will actually consolidate the billings into a single central payment to each vendor. Payments are deducted from our government agencies' expenditure boards, and agencies are expected to conduct post-payment checks and analytics to ensure that the payments made are in order and to check for any anomalies in the billings. So to date, we have about 7 authorized service providers and processing over 3,000 block billings per month. Next. Moving on to the use of data analytics, in April 2016, AGD embarked on our journey to create a whole of government financial analytics platform called FI at Gov. This is a centralized and integrated analytics platform that draws data from various central financial and procurement systems. By 2022, 90% of our public sector agencies had onboarded the platform. So it can provide insightful dashboards with critical information and indicators for benchmarking information as well as self-service analysis. Next. So this is an example of how one of our dashboard looks like. Next. Lastly, next, I would like to share on the Singapore government's efforts to eliminate checks. So our Monetary Authority of Singapore has recently announced that all corporate checks will be eliminated by 2025. And although we have already minimized the use of checks, we will be working on transiting the existing check users to a full e-payment solutions by 2025. Next. Yeah, I've completed my presentation. Hope my sharing has been useful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bian. We hope to hear more on your experience. Let's hear from Indonesia's experience in digitalizing government revenue collection. Pak Nur, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Andini. Okay, good afternoon all. Previous speaker talked about expenditure side, and I would like to present on revenue side based on Indonesia experience in digitalizing, integrating a government revenue system. Okay, please next. Actually, next please. Yeah, at present, Indonesia already have like our DG said about MPN, government revenue modules or government revenue system, third generation. But I would like to say that government financial reform matters. So in 2003, we have reforms and then followed by treasury reform, reorganizing the treasury unit and try to apply modern cash management, treasury single account, cash forecasting, cash optimization. And since 2007, we create integrated government revenues module. Okay, next. Of course, we consider many stakeholders, particularly taxpayer or non-taxpayer, because we have to provide an easier payment mechanism for them, and for billers they can monitor all payment, and for treasurer, of course, we can see whether money can come to my treasury single account. And for collecting agents, bank, it can be a branding image for them join government revenue system. Okay, next. Of course, when we develop the system, the main focus that I said before, how we support that money from payer, taxpayer, non-taxpayer, can go directly to my bank account, my government bank account, I mean treasury single account in a central bank. So of course, we will put collecting agent there, banks, many banks, and also many canals. Actually, the system, collaboration between MPN system and biller system and also collecting agent system. Of course, when we develop, we consider some variables such as the type of government revenues, which detail will be input in this system, and then how many billers will put here, including intermediary agency, not only commercial bank, but also commercial bank here, central bank here. About the frequency and nominal amount of government revenue payment, also we consider about this one. Location in remote area and also from overseas, and also connectivity we consider when we develop this system. Next, I said before that currently we have third generation of MPN, but we start from 2007 when we create the first generation of MPN. We integrate tax payment system and custom excise system within MPN, but at this stage, we still use manual billing system and payment in teller or counter services, only use single currency, limited service time. Of course, it follow working hours in banking system, not serve all transaction at segmented, which means that data is maintained in local treasury offices. But in the second generation, we try to adopt more electronic features. So billing become electronic billing system, and then electronic canals, let's say mobile banking, ATM, can become a channel for payment. Not only ID8, but also we use USD for in this system. And service become unlimited because 24 hours at 7 days. And it serves all transaction, including grant and also financing transaction. all data integrated in one office in the center. And in that condition, 2019 until now, we add more electronic channels, including virtual accounts, debit card, credit card, and we invite financial technology, e-commerce in the system, using single sign-on upgrade the capacity of transaction to at least 1,000 transaction per second, right? And then for remote areas, we develop point of payment service like a small business unit that are connected to commercial banks. And currently we have 98 collecting agents, 15 canals, and when we connect with local government, we have channel 7020. And in some port, actually, basically one billing, one payment, but in port, we create multi-billings again, one payment. And from overseas, we can provide service that credit card can be used, particularly for electronic visa. And then next, you can see that this behavior change over the last 8 years. The trend of government revenue to digital channels has increased, both in terms of frequency and nominal transaction. And actually, the outbreak of COVID-19 accelerated this process. So transaction on digital channel have surpassed those on teller channels. But interestingly, that transaction in tax activities, I mean that the trend of paying taxes on digital channels continue to increase, but it's still dominated by canal teller transaction. So next, please. Yes, because we still have a problem, I think that, of course, we have many banks across the nation. Indonesia is a huge country, so many islands, and we have the main islands, Sumatra, Kalimantan, Java, Sulawesi, Bali Nusra, and Maluku, Papua. Frankly speaking, that internet connection in eastern part of Indonesia still lacks. So I mean that this is a problem when we try to more inclusive in transaction. So you can see also the data compared to other Asian countries about 3G's coverage to percentage of population. I think Indonesia is quite similar to other countries, but about mobile connectivity index, of course, still below to Singapore and Malaysia. Okay, next. It is based on the progress. Of course, we will evaluate. Then we will continue to improve our services, and we still evaluate the ideal number of agents and canals. And then, of course, we have MPN system, but we try to integrate in maybe interoperability between others system, particularly in billing system. And currently, tax unit is developing their system, core tax administration system, and it will affect MPN system as well. And we will also, in line with central bank's initiation about local currency settlement in ASEAN. And then about improved services, yes, of course, in some feature in banking sector, QR Indonesian standard, BI fast, it will affect our service in the future. And currency, we try to consider not only USD, probably GPY and Euro in the system. And we will to expand point of payments because Eastern part still the problem there, and we will connect with government e-wallet. Indonesia try to piloting this government wallet, so it actually instrument for payment to beneficiaries, but it will connect it also to receipt mechanism to the government, so it can be used for payment and disburse as well. And then, of course, data, we try to analyze and using artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, and in future, we still look for cooperation in data exchange between Asian countries. I think that's all from my presentation, Pak Andi. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanur. Next, we have Mr. Guneratne. will share Australia's experience in delivering a sustainable digitalization of public financial management. Mr. Gunaratne, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm Ramesh Gunaratne, Assistant Secretary Budget Estimates and Advice Branch from Australian Government Department of Finance. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the central budget management system and how we use budget estimates and actuals reporting in Australian government context. I'm not going to go through all the slides due to the time limitation, so I will say please skip. But can I have the next slide, please? Before I talk about the central management budget system, I just want you to give a quick update on how the budget cycle works in the Australian government context. So for example, you can see in 22-23, we start the budget process kind of 3 to 4 months ahead of the May budget in Australian government, since we start a budget, we deliver the budget in second Tuesday of May traditionally. So when we do the budget, we do our budget estimates around March, April, May. We come up with 100 million. And then after 6 months, we do something called a mid-year economic and fiscal outlook, which we call a MAI for. Agencies get to update the estimates again, and we say it's now 120 million. And then again in January, February the following year, we update the estimates called additional estimates. If agencies need more money, there's an opportunity for the agencies to update the estimates. And finally, we call in the May budget, just before the May budget is delivered the following year, we get another opportunity to update the budgets for revised budget. We say 145 million now. And then after the financial year, 3 months after it has passed the financial year, before 30th September, we got to release something called the final budget outcome. So you'll understand why I'm telling all these concepts, because our central budget management system has to cater to all these requirements. So these are one of the requirements that our system needs to cater and adapt to. Can I have the next slide, please? System requirements. The important point to know is I've got some statistics, how many Commonwealth agencies use this, how many staff use this, but the important point to note is we have given access. There are certain security requirements. Not every agency can see other agencies' estimates. Department of Finance can see the whole of government estimates, but Department of Health cannot see Department of Education's estimates. So same with the agency authorized. So when we, for example, a person who enters budget estimates into the system cannot validate or quality assure that estimate that they enter. There are security requirements and segregations between each validation process. So that's another requirement that we have in the central budget management system. And the system also has to cater as an inflow and outflow of financial information between entities and the Australian Government Department of Finance, which we call the Official Public Account, the OPA. Cash moves roughly around $2 billion every day in terms of transactions. So that's another requirement that we have in the central budget management system. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so reporting requirements. So from this system, we do produce the budget papers, the Australian government budget papers. We've got 4 budget papers, which we call Budget Strategy Outlook, budget paper number 2, which is all the government measures, that's all the commendations, and they've got budget paper number 3, Federal Financial Relations between states and the Commonwealth, and we've got budget paper 4, which is kind of average staffing level agency resourcing. All these papers are produced by the numbers entered in CBMS, which is the Central Budget Management System. So I will call CBMS going forward, acronym. And also we produce the appropriation bills in Australian government. Any money to be spent from the Australian government has to go through Parliament, and Parliament has to approve. And we call this the appropriation bills. Once the Parliament, the bills get approved, it gets royal assent, and then only the government agencies can spend this money. So that's another requirement by CBMS. Can I go to the next slide, please? And now we come to what is CBMS. Yes. So I talked to you about the requirements of all the reporting requirements, all the security requirements, and all the reporting requirements. So what it basically is, CBM is a highly configured SAP-based application system. So we've catered to our needs to deliver reporting in terms of budget estimates and annual actuals. So it's a system that reports estimates, actuals, and then manages the cash and the appropriations for the whole of Australian government. Can I go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so here are the elements of the central budget management system. So we've got different modules, and I'm not going to go through all the modules, but I will highlight a few modules that is kind of relevant. So we got from annual estimates, decision making, cash management. The important point to note here is most of these modules are interconnected. There's validation checks. For example, annual estimate flows to budget paper number 1. Decision-making module flows to budget paper number 2. But there are estimates we need to reconcile when we say the government has takes policy decisions, example, worth of 20 billion. Each measure adds up in BP2 to 20 billion, and that is then reconciled back to BP1 in the policy decisions line in budget paper number 1. So there are checks and validations in the system which is interconnected. So that's the important part from this slide. Can I go to the next slide, please? And here's a good overall kind of a picture in terms of what CBMS does and how complicated things are. So the decision-making module in CBMS is that's when the Australian government makes a decision. The government will provide 100 million for XYZ program. That's a government decision, gets recorded in CBMS, and there's interaction between the decision-making module and the annual estimates module. The annual estimates have to be entered by agencies, finance validate those adjustments, and those adjustments finally go into the appropriation bills. The annual estimates, whatever the agencies enter as their estimates, that's what the agencies get appropriated as what they can spend. And that appropriation is managed through the cash module, right at the bottom of the screen. So it's very important that agencies get their annual estimates right. So if they don't get their annual estimates right, that means they don't have that money to spend. So annual estimates is then kind of related to the monthly profiles and the monthly actuals. So what agencies do is they profile the annual estimates to monthly profiles and say we are going to spend out of the 100 million, roughly 10 million one month, 5 million, 6 million, kind of they've got a profile within the 12 months. And then the agencies have to enter the actuals. And then we monitor that through the actuals monitoring process. Right, agencies said they're going to spend 10 billion, but the actuals came at 6 billion. So there's a 4 billion underspend. So that gives us great visibility how agencies are tracking in terms of their monthly spending. This is also used for government monthly financial statements. The actuals are reported on the Department of Finance website. The finance minister puts out the monthly financial statements, and we use the monthly profiles, the monthly actuals to produce those statements. And at the end of the year, we do annual actuals, which means this also flows to the final budget outcome. And we produce whole of government consolidation financial statements, which is required under the Public Governance and Performance Accountability Act. In Australia, we are supposed to do the statements at a whole of government level. So annual actuals module helps us to do that. Can I go to the next slide, please? Right here. Annual estimates. The important point to note is that agencies get to update annual estimates 3 times a year, which we call, as I said previously, around January, February, it's called a pre-expenditure review update, or we call the additional estimates. And then they get to update for budget around in May. And then after budget, 6 months after budget, we do a mid-year fiscal outlook called the MIFO, and agencies update their annual estimates. So that's 3 times a year in terms of updating your estimates in the annual estimates module. Can I go to the next slide, please? I will go to the next slide. Thank you. The decision making. Yep, decision making. So decision making is that's when when the government makes a decision to fund a major project, or government announces their major policies that the government is going to fund. For example, schools, education, health. Government will provide 100 million across 4 years. That is recorded in the decision-making module. And the decision-making module, as I said, is reconciled back to the annual estimates module to make sure there are checks and balances in terms of reconciliation. Can I go to the next slide, please? Monthly reporting. Yep, so as I said previously, we use monthly profiles from the annual estimates to make sure that we can cover the underspends and overspends, and we produce financial statements for the Australian government. Let me give you a kind of a bit of a practical diagram so you can understand a bit more. So if I can go to the next slide, please. Here you go. So in 22-23 budget, we said we are going to spend 240 million. And then in the monthly profiles, the agencies will kind of say, yep, in July, we are going to spend 20, August, we're going to spend 40, and September 60. Actuals came in 10, 17, 20. There you go. 10 million underspent in July, 23 million underspent in August, 40 million underspent in September. So this gives us a good ongoing financial visibility in terms of how the agencies are tracking in programs. And Australian government has more than 600 programs across the Commonwealth, and we monitor all these programs from the budget year to 3 forward years in terms of monitoring how are we going. But in this specific example, I'm only talking the current year. So we can tell the agencies, you guys are having an underspend, you might want to adjust your annual estimates. And then the agencies will say, yep, we could underspend because the demand for this program is low, and they will kind of adjust their estimates. And then that will flow to the cash module. That means their appropriation is probably reduced or increased depending on overspend or underspend. And that's how we manage the estimates and the management of cash in the Australian government in terms of managing the appropriations. Can I go to the next slide?
Sir, your time is up, unfortunately, Mr. Gunaratne.
Right here, I can go to the last slide, which is the reporting. Can I just go to the reporting slide? Yep. Okay. So very quickly, this is my kind of last slide. I just want to emphasize the system also allows us to report as a whole of government level or as entity level, GFS, government financial statistics level, or the Australian government accounting standards. And the CBMS allows us to kind of get curated access data, multiple reports of multiple levels of reporting, and it gives us real good visibility in terms of Australian government financial management. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well. So we've listened to all the speakers, and since our topic is digitalization in public financial management, how to support financial sustainability, and as we know, the ASEAN chairmanship 2023, one of priority economic deliverable is on digital economy. How do we advance our payment connectivity and how to strengthen the resiliency in financial sector, digital financial inclusion. So, and then we also know that the situation within the ASEAN member countries may vary. One or two may be more advanced than the others. So I would like to open the discussion to our speakers today. So how can we move forward since we know all the opportunities are there, all the, we know the good if we do this right, but since we know better the situation within the ASEAN member countries, how can we move forward from this situation in order to gain the objective? I open the question to all the speakers online and in person. Go ahead. Who would like to jump in? Go ahead, sir.
So maybe I will give maybe first a little bit of a general answer. So specifically for ASEAN member countries, I would think that a similar problem exists, which I highlighted in my presentation about interoperability. I think there is a lot of, the next progress could be like having, many of these countries I would think have several systems which cover different functions of public financial management. For example, it's not uncommon to see few countries I have visited, public investment management, typically handled by a different ministry or agency other than Minister of Finance, development planning and management. And that function covers the whole cycle of, choosing an infrastructure project, right from the planning stage to budgeting stage to implementation stage. But the FMIS mainly captures the budgeting cycle. So you don't, then you are not able to track the entire public investment management cycle, right from the planning to the actual implementation, if there are time overruns, cost overruns, etc. So that could be facilitated by linking the systems that are used by the public investment management agency who are in charge of development planning with the FMIS, for example. So it's just to give one example, that it will facilitate a lot of data-driven decision-making, getting early warnings or alerts where which particular project is not advancing well, where what steps needs to be taken, and it will also help you, give you a lot of data for better planning for new projects. So those are the things I can give you just one example, which I think a lot of value added will be there by interconnecting different systems.
Right. Maybe we should hear from the World Bank. Mr. Farouk, what's your take on this?
Yes, I think I will emphasize 3 areas. One, as Sailendra has already mentioned, interoperability, because interoperability not only improves the flow of information, but also the controls and integrity of the data. So interoperability between IFMIS and payroll system, interoperability between IFMIS and e-procurement system, and interoperability between IFMIS and public investment management system, and so on and so forth. So this is an important area, as Sailendra has already mentioned, and I think for ASEAN countries, this is an area. Obviously, every country has a unique situation, so every country has to make an assessment of their own situation. It's very difficult to do a very generic catch-all advice, but just to do a diagnostic. But this is one area that we have seen commonly across many countries. The second area is that Treasury is typically sitting a gold mine of data. So you have late data not only on the budget, but budget execution, and this data is really aggregated at the functional level, at the economic classification level, at the regional level, at the district level. So there are a lot of data that you can use to inform the policy, the data-driven policy, to monitor whether we are meeting our macro fiscal targets or not, or whether it is in line with our overall planning, the development plans of the country or not. So the budget data, the budget execution data is a real data that gives you a lot of insights. In one country, for example, the chief minister was looking at just the budget execution data to monitor development projects, because development projects, through the development projects, they wanted to win the elections. So analytics is a big area in which I think people should consider bringing data from multiple sources into the analytic system. And the third area, I think, which is again very important, to make the payments as digital as possible. Eliminate the checks, eliminate as many manual or cash payments as possible. And then you have different situations. For example, for travel allowances, you can have travel cards to give more flexibility and autonomy to the service delivery units. You can give them payment cards or P cards, or maybe some mobile-based advances, impressed amounts, larger impressed amounts, so that they have some flexibility, because there are a lot of complaint amongst the public service delivery units that we don't want excessive control of the treasury. And similarly, you might use the mobile payment, which is again the dominant trend for retail payments like pension and social welfare payments. So I think these three areas are worth looking: interoperability, analytics, and digital payments. I'll stop here.
Very well. Maybe from Indonesia, perhaps Singapore, you would like to jump in?
Okay, thank you. From my perspective, I think each ASEAN countries has different stage of IFMIS reform, public financial management reform, and system as well. So, this, what's that occasion? So, if every country share the experience, all countries will see. And I think we'll not try to jump. I mean, they know their capacities, they know their stage, they will apply step by step based on their condition. I think that's from it all issue in public financial management. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I can just share our Singapore experience as well. I think we first have to really had a whole of government planning to actually take stock of where we are in terms of the landscape. Like for example, the different financial systems that are being used by the different public sector agencies within our own respective countries. So I think one thing that we have done is that we actually took stock of our own landscape as well in terms of the quite disparate systems that are being used. And I also hear about the importance of interoperability of systems. So actually one of the strategy that we have took in our context is to try to harmonize and centralize the number of financial systems that we have among our public sector agencies as the first step. Yeah, so we actually focus on harmonizing, centralizing our financial systems to actually minimize the very disparate landscape that we have. So with that, right, it also actually allows us to have an easier integration among the system now that you have less system to manage. And I think it also allows us to reap economies of scale when we start to centralize financial systems at the central and whole of government level. Yeah, so this is actually what we have done. And of course, the other thing that has been talked about a lot is also about mining of data. Yeah, so I think with the interoperability of the system, we actually allows the data to actually flow easily, and also for us to extract data, do data mining for data analytics to facilitate decision making as well. Yeah, so this is actually what we have done as the first step, harmonizing and centralization. Yeah.
Right. So that comes with a lot of planning in hand, I'm pretty sure. So I would like to open the floor for maybe one question or two maximum, at the very maximum, if there is anyone who would like to ask. Yes, sir. Please share the microphone to the gentleman in the back. I'll come to you, sir. Please mention your name and your affiliation and the question you would like to address to which speaker.
Thank you very much, Ms. Andini. Good evening, everyone. At first, I would like to thanks for the presentation. It was very informative and valuable. I have several questions. Hopefully, we can address.
Maybe you can make it more concise.
Yep. Okay.
And direct to which speaker,
yeah,
as we're running out of time.
Okay. The first question is that you mentioned that several countries has undergone the different pace on the development of FMIS. The question is, how is the best way to ensure the continuity of the delivery service from the FMIS? We know that there will be somehow, depending on the product life cycle, there will be an obsolete. We need to upgrade it. We need to improve. So how is to improve, the best way to improve the continuity of to that service? The second question is that I think somehow we do not fully address the role of the central bank. In different countries, let's say for the Korean government, the central bank provide the payment through the final recipient, while in the case of the Indonesia, we involve more the commercial bank. Mm-hmm. So in our understanding, how is the best way or the best ideal involvement between the central bank and the commercial bank to deliver payment? Let's say for the payment for the social assistance, for example. And the last, hopefully, is that if there are parameters or a reference to be included in our understanding and our effort to enhance the scope of the FMIS base. What is the best parameters on that? Let's say, for example, in Indonesia, we have the SPAN system that is being used by the MOF, while we use different system for the spending unit. But in Cambodia, they use all the same system to all either the MOF or the spending unit. And it is different case also in India and also in Korea. So how is the best reference to know that the pace for the enhancing the scope of the FMIS in this case, especially in the ASEAN countries? I think that is my question.
Thank you very much. I think you already take the time for other questions. So I'll leave the speakers to answer, perhaps from for the first and the third question from the IMF or from the World Bank can answer, and from the second one, the role of central bank, I guess from the experience of Singapore or Australia might share a little bit. Go ahead, speaker.
So I can attempt to answer the first and third question a little bit about FMIS, but I'm sure Khurram may have some views. In terms of progressing, your question was more on, one was on continuity, and one was also, I think linked to that is improvement as you progress to new versions of FMIS. Continuity is very important, but when you try to improve the functionalities of FMIS, it's not necessary to go for a monolithic, the whole scale ERP type of system always, enterprise resource planning system. I think it's now accepted good practice to have what we call modular approach to FMIS. In the sense that if you see a need in a particular module or particular function or sub-function of the overall public financial management, you can move ahead modernizing that particular module instead of waiting for a whole-scale change of the entire FMIS. And that also allows you to progress, sequence appropriately, because many a times it requires a lot of planning, and big bang approach may not succeed in many cases. There are a lot of lessons learned that if you go with a big bang approach, it may not succeed as always. It requires a very tremendous effort in terms of planning and change management. So it's better to go module by module. And as you go module by module, it also gives you the opportunity, what I emphasized in my presentation, to progress from different stages of digitalization, to actually focus on digital transformation in the sense that look at the business processes. Can they be transformed? Can some steps be streamlined? So I think that is where it will make the whole function more efficient, and will also allow you to even capture more sort of relevant data granularity, etc., which all we are talking about the data analytics. So it's better to go module by module with a modular approach. So I will leave the I think central bank question to my colleagues, and maybe Khurram may have to add anything on FMIS. Thank you.
So I think on the first and the third question, I can share my perspective. So the first question was how to improve the FMIS given the product life cycle. So the FMIS, or for that matter, any system goes through the improvements all along. It's never a static system. So typically we divide them. There are two main categories of improvements or upgrades. One is called the functional upgrade, the other is called the technical upgrade. In the technical upgrade, you just improve the technology without improving the functionality. So if, for example, the database is outdated, or the version of the database is outdated, or the product, the vendor is saying that I will discontinue this product, you have to upgrade to the new product. So without improving the functionality, you improve the new product. Whether, for example, from SAP ECC 6, they might want to go to HANA, for example. Or similarly, Oracle 11, they want to go to Oracle 12, or from Oracle 12 to Oracle 14. So this is the technical upgrade. which you have to do considering your own circumstances. But the second part is even more important, which is the functional upgrade. Every country has its own reform trajectory. So for example, if you started with the line item budgeting and in the next upgrade, you want to go to program-based budgeting. So you want to improve the system, so you improve the functionality at the same time. So you say, okay, I will do program budgeting in one ministry or two ministries, and then I will pilot and I will roll it out. Similarly, you started with Ipsos Cash, and then going forward, you say we are doing some more more accrual accounting, and then in a phased approach, we are improving the functionality. So that will also be a functional upgrade. Third example could be commitment control. You started with just payment against the budget, but then you want to improve commitment control. And as part of the improvement of the system, you say in the next upgrade, we also incorporate the commitment control. So it has to follow your own reform trajectory, but do it in a phased manner. On your second question of the third question of enhancing FMIS, because you mentioned that you have span for the central treasury offices, but then spending units are using different systems and then somehow interconnect. And in Cambodia, you mentioned that they are all using one system. Fortunately, I have worked in both countries, so I know a little bit of the background. So you see, the problem with one system, because if you are using an ERP system, then you have to have licenses, right? So if you need, let's say, 4,000 licenses for the treasury, and if you want that the entire population of spending units start also using the ERP system, then you are talking about 50,000 licenses or maybe 70,000 licenses, which are very extremely cost prohibitive, and the value of those small units, is not that great that you give them full license. So because of the licensing consideration, governments like Indonesia and even the French government, they have custom developed separate standalone systems for the spending units. So they submit their bills, the invoices, the purchase order, just 4 or 5 forms through those custom developed systems, and then somehow integrated into SAP or whatever ERP system is the main treasury system, so that they save on the license cost. Cambodia, I don't know, because Cambodia is also using PeopleSoft as the ERP system for the central treasury, and I am not sure they have gone to the spending unit level. They will also face the same problem. So that's the reason people are using smaller custom developed systems for the retail, like thousands of spending units, but for the main treasury they are using ERP system or some other system. But if you have custom developed system, then you don't have the licensing issue, then you can use the same system. So it all depends on your situation. But the licensing is the main bottleneck, that's why the governments like France, Indonesia, or even Malaysia, they are not rolling out the system across all the spending units. They have separate systems. I'll stop here.
Very well. So who would like to answer the second question regarding the role of the central bank? Perhaps from Singapore or from, yes, go ahead, Ms.
I can give a quick update.
No, let me
Australia.
give the floor. Let me give the floor to Ms. Beyond first. So, go ahead.
Actually, this question will probably be better answered by our Monetary Authority of Singapore colleagues, but maybe I can share that actually for my team, what we do is that we work with our Monetary Authority of Singapore to actually manage the daily cash flow requirements of the Singapore requirements, the payments that we need to make out every day. So this is actually what we do to manage the daily liquidity needs of the government on a daily basis. Yeah. Just a very short answer from my side. Yeah.
Very well.
Thank you.
From Australia, go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of Australia, so our equivalent of the central bank is the Reserve Bank of Australia. So Department of Finance manages the official public account, which gets money appropriated in the OPA. And Central Budget Management System manages that, and the OPA and the RBA. So what happens is that the OPA team uses the RBA portal to make real-time payments between agencies. So in terms of social security payments, age pension, all the money comes and goes through the official public account and then goes to the real-time portal of the RBA. So that's how we make the payments in the Australian government context.
Very well. We have the last question from the gentleman in the middle with the microphone. Yes, go ahead. Very short question, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Kobir from Directorate General of Treasury Indonesia. My question is to Mr. Huram, that you explained regarding the harness the emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, big data, payment, portal, and cloud computing. My question is, according to your observations, what countries in the world that advance in this area so that we can learn from them? And question to Ms. Chua-Bia, as believed from my DG that your country advanced than another country in Asia. Is that true in area of artificial intelligence, big data, and also cloud computing? Your country, especially Minister of Finance in Singapore, is advanced as well, so that we can learn from you there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
In the interest of time, I'll be very quick actually. So for the big data, I think Brazil could be a good example. Brazil has implemented big data in which they are bringing the budget execution data from multiple municipalities and local governments and procurement data into a data lake. And this is one of the biggest data lake in the public sector. And then using artificial intelligence to cross-reference data to identify incidents of fraud and corruption. So just to give you one example, they have identified, for example, more than 500 vendors who are awarded the procurement contracts, public procurement contracts, when they match their telephone number and the addresses through the artificial intelligence tool. These are the phone numbers and the addresses of the officials who were responsible for awarding the contract. So just one example. So there are several other fraud and corruption patterns that they emerge. It's very interesting actually. And similarly, there are countries like Indonesia, Treasury office is using as a data warehouse to give monitoring the macro picture of what is happening on the financial management. And there are some other countries. On cloud computing, I think, I recently did a global publication on cloud computing where we have cited several examples of which countries are very advanced on cloud computing. But I think I can say the UAE is a good example. Singapore is a fantastic example. UK government is another very good example. Australian government is a good example. So there are cloud framework, basically, institutional coordination and procurement frameworks, which we have highlighted in our publication. So you can look at some of these countries, and we will be happy to convene, because we have a convening platform where we bring all these countries together to talk about cloud computing. So we'll be very happy if you are interested to learn more about cloud computing. On the central, the portal, on the payment portal, this is relatively new technology. I'm promoting it actually in Pakistan. Even today, I was having a meeting with the authorities. They have developed a central portal, but now they are planning to implement it, but they have developed the system. So if you are interested to learn more, then we can also talk bilaterally on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll answer the questions on the use of AI, big data, data science. So actually for Singapore government, we are in fact still work in progress, I must say. It is actually a journey for us as well. So we actually still got many areas of improvement, and I think just now my presentation we actually shared that we started our journey by having a central financial data analytics platform. So we actually started at that, and we are still using the platform mainly to pipe financial data from our central financial systems, from the agencies' financial systems, and also to work with our users to curate any potential use cases of financial data. But I must say that I think we are also still learning along the way. There are still a lot of improvements that we need to make. Yeah.
Absolutely. So not only improvements, but also if we're talking about technology as we wrap up the session, it develops so fast. So I guess I would like to ask each one of you, what should we anticipate or even should be wary of? We're talking about digitalization, particularly in public financial management in the future. Now we're talking about AI, but soon it will be like, oh, it's so 2023. So since technology has been rapidly developed, what should we anticipate? I guess we start from the online speaker first. Mr. Farouk, you can go ahead, and then followed by Mr. Gunaratne.
I mean, there are certain trends that we are seeing across the world: artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, because a lot of processes within the government are being done now through robotic process automation, RPA. There are centers of excellence in US government and UK government exclusively with experts on robotic process automation. And obviously, there are other trends like interoperability, analytics, dashboard that I am seeing across the world. Digital payment is another big trend that I'm seeing a lot, especially the mobile. The mobile government is a big trend. In some countries, we used to talk about multi-channel strategy. So you have a portal, one channel, you have an office, walk-in, people can go to the office as one, channel, and then mobile as another channel to provide digital public service delivery. But in Ukraine, where they have war, they are talking about, and they have actually implemented mobile-only channel. So that's the future. Because everybody does not, the poor people especially don't have the internet, they don't have the laptop. Even you have the portal in which all your services are on the portal. Poor people cannot have access to the portal because they don't have laptop, they don't have internet. But poor people have mobile phones. So mobile is another big wave of the future that we must keep in mind. I'll stop here.
Very well, Mr. Gunaratne.
I think from my perspective, it will be kind of the ethics in artificial intelligence, how we use that. There are a lot of good things happening in artificial intelligence, but when it comes to public financial management, we need to draw a line, the ethical and the morality. That's very important. And also, going forward, in Australia, we got something called the digital first identity. So we got Australian Taxation Office, Medicare, there are certain other agencies. We are promoting kind of a single sign-on. So once you sign on one government portal, that you will have access to multiple government agencies. You don't have to keep on creating passwords and have those identities. So one single sign-on. So that's a kind of that's where we are kind of improving and trying to make things happen. And that will be a useful lesson for the ASEAN countries.
Mm-hmm. Pak Nur?
Okay, I think from my perspective that we all in Indonesia, we discussed about AI several years and then we still struggle to implement this concept. Of course, we learn to other countries as well about how to implement AI in practice. And of course, more digital, more data. I think, yes, we have to read data. As I said before that, of course, we try to improve our service, let's say in payment system and also for receipt system as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to talk about with more data, we got to be more mindful about safeguarding the security of data. And you actually need to put in place the necessary infrastructure, data classification framework, the governance framework as well, to actually safeguard the data that you have collected, especially from the external stakeholders. Like in the area of payments, we actually collect data from our government vendors. So we actually owe them a duty to ensure the security of the data that we have collected from them. So I thought security of data is actually quite a big thing that we need to take note of as we collect more and more data. Yeah.
Mr. Patanaya?
So just to add to what others have said, I think two things I'll highlight. As technology evolving is too fast, I think when we choose a technology, we have to be sure that we can adapt if technology changes in the near future, so adaptive and anticipatory. So we have to anticipate also. So this is also something we have actually factored into what I mentioned in the IT architectural pillar, because the functional pillar and IT architectural pillar have to go together when we make a decision on investing on technology for public financial management. The other aspect I will also highlight, I fully agree with others, that I think we should not ignore the risks, both on data privacy, because a lot of, when we digitize, a lot of data will be moving to digital domain. It's very easy to steal digital data compared to paper-based data. So data privacy and cyber risks, we should not be ignoring those things. I think, and this also came up in one of the surveys, that these are key risks, and AI, as it's moving faster, the risks are perhaps getting higher and higher. So we have to take that into account very proactively in the decision on PFM digitalization.
With that, we conclude the session of this afternoon. Thank you very much to our speakers who are with us in person and online. Thank you very much for your insights, for your comments, and hopefully it will be very useful for everyone who's joining us here at Mulia Hotel and also online. Thank you, and please give a round of applause for our speakers. I'll give the floor back to our MC.
Thank you, Ms. Andini, as our moderators and also our prominent speakers for the valuable sharing in these discussions. Once again, thank you very much to our prominent panelists today, Mr. Selendra Narayan Patanayak, Ms. Chua Bian, Mr. Nur Faisal Ahmad, and also Mr. Huram Farooq and Mr. Romes Guneratni, who joined with us virtually. And also absolutely to our moderator, Ms. Andini Effendi, for moderating our discussions for these few hours. Once again, please give big round of applause for all of us. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have had productive, inspiring time together, and now we come to the end of the seminar on digitalization in public financial management to support financial sustainability. Before we leave our seminar today, please fill out the feedback form that's shown on the screen, or you can visit s.id/feedbackafmgm. Once again, please fill out the feedback form that's shown on the screen before we leave our seminar. The last one, on behalf of the host and the committee, we'd like to extend our appreciation to all of you for your support and participations. We hope that we got many valuable insight from our panelists from discussions today. And now I'm Rima Budiarti. Good evening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Santi Santi Om.